Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I'm Sidney Katz and the council president this year for Montgomery County Council, and I represent the residents of District 3. We'd like to thank everyone for being with us this afternoon. I'm delighted that you are joining us on Zoom for our third business briefing. The purpose of this briefing is to help local businesses navigate through our new economic reality. I'm joined today by two terrific guests. Gigi Godwin, President and CEO of the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce, and Marilyn Balcombe, CEO and President of the Gaithersburg Germantown Chamber of Commerce. They will provide remarks on what they are hearing from their chamber members on the impacts of COVID-19, and then take questions from our Zoom audience. You may please send your questions to the chat box on the right of your screen. And before we start, I did want to thank again Susan Kennedy, who's going to be moderating this briefing. Susan has done a terrific job, not only for these meetings, but for other meetings as well. And Susan, whenever you're ready, please, let's start the program.
Well, thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that compliment. It's been a pleasure, and I'm enjoying Zoom. I don't know about everybody else, but I'm enjoying Zoom. And we are here today. This is our third business briefing, as the council president mentioned. There's been so much going on in our community right now, and businesses who need a lot of assistance. The council has stepped up with plenty of funding, more to come, I am sure. And we have these two wonderful women here who are running two very important organizations that support local businesses. And that's my first question to each of you. And we'll start with you, Gigi. That is something that you are known to do. You are there for businesses to support them. Describe how your role has changed since COVID-19 hit.
Well, thank you for that question. And thank you again, Council President Katz, for having us today. So, I mean, this is a good demonstration of how it's changed, right? Here's how we're interacting. Here's how we're communicating with people. Our whole form of communication, our advocacy. Chambers are 501c6s. We're advocacy organizations. And we do advocacy every day, all day long. Marilyn and I do, and all our good colleagues do. But now we're doing it 24/7. I mean, we're really doing it. And so we've just changed the venue, the platform, to this kind of communication. The issues and spending time with our members to assist them in applying for all the various assistance programs became a very huge focus. First, advocating for that help, and then getting it over the finish line. And that's at the federal level, of course, because that's huge, and the state and the county level. And so we've all been involved in those conversations with our congressional leaders, as well as state and county. So we do those things, but we've been doing them, you know, in a whole new huge way, and even more so. And then, of course, with the challenge of not having face-to-face interaction. And we're used to building experiences for our members where we connect them to each other, as well as, you know, to all sorts of other resources. So we've played the role. We've always been a trusted source for information, right people, right information at the right time. And we all do that for our board and our members. So what we were focused on changed, like the biggest relief plan in the history of the human race. Yeah, that was kind of big. And trying to get people through that, over that finish line, and then through those portals, that was a challenge. And then now everything is shifting to the next set of issues, which is how do you reopen? Huge topics, liability issues. You know, so what we're advocating is not new for us, any of us. But what we're talking about, you know, the topics, that keeps moving, and we're, you know, trying to shape that conversation as well. So I'd say it's critical.
Yeah. What about you, Marilyn? What are you hearing from the folks in your region?
Yeah, similar to Gigi, you know, I like how she said trusted source. You know, we've taken all this information from the federal, county, state, and get it out to not only our members, but we're reaching the whole business community right now. We feel strongly about that. I think the difference is that the stakes are so much higher. We're dealing with people's livelihoods, their jobs, and it's critical that we can get them the financial resources that they need. So that's first and foremost what we've been doing, is really trying to get our members and the business community to have access to federal funds, to all funds. But then also we still business is still happening. So we're still trying to provide opportunities for businesses to work together, to work with one another. We've been very active in trying to shop local. We've been working on restaurants and bars and trying to push people to order out and pick up. So we've been trying to do all that. So it is been a 24/7 on week 9, I guess. We're going on to
week 9, but who's counting? Yeah, week 9.
Also, as Gigi said, recovery now is the questions. The past 24 hours have been really crazy with the governor and the county executive.
Yeah. Looking for clarity as to where we are with all of that.
That's
Sidney,
exactly right.
Sidney, I know yesterday the council approved additional $1.2 million for teleworking, and Marilyn, you testified upon that measure. We originally approved a lower amount, and now we added to that. Talk a little bit about why we needed to add to that fund.
Well, first off, let me get back to what both of the CEOs were talking about. You know, this is the strangest of times. It really is. I mean, it's historical events is, being made every day from what we're doing. And so that in itself is of something that we have to constantly keep in mind. And for what Marilyn was talking about is, today at 1 o'clock, or 1:15, excuse me, I'm getting my Zoom meetings confused. Today at 1:15, the county council will be back in session to discuss the county executive's order on the stay-at-home order and what it means and for Montgomery County. Everyone wants us to get back as quickly as we can, but we all want to get back as safely as we can. And so that in itself is going to be a discussion again today. Getting back to your question, Susan, about yesterday, let me go all the way back to yesterday and that topic for teleworking. When the whole grants process came out, there was a criteria where people had to have losses for, they had to be, there's all sorts of criteria. They couldn't be a business of more than 100 people. They had to have losses during the month of March. During the month of March, they had to do all of these things. 50% of their income had to fall from their businesses and nonprofits. And we realized that for the telework part of it, that there were companies that perhaps didn't have the losses at that point, though they probably have them now. They didn't have them at that point, but they were small enough that the grants that they were looking for, the $2,500 up to $2,500, was something that they needed in order to keep them in business. So Andrew Friedson, Councilmember Friedson, was the person, the driving force on this, but all of us were certainly involved, said, let's do this. Let's have a separate fund for the teleworking, and let's turn to one of our partners, Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation, Ben Wu, who was one of the people last week on this business grouping, that they became partners as well, and they're administering it, and they're coming in, and they literally sold out within a couple days. And that shows you, in one respect, that's a good business when you can sell out that fast. In another respect, that's not so good because you could sell out that fast for this program. So anyhow, yesterday we did approve additional funding so that more businesses can join in on this. And there again, there's criteria, and we're doing it the right way, but it is so very necessary. My background is one of small business, and I understand small businesses, not every day is profitable, and I understand that not every day is the best day you can have. But I also understand that if you don't have if you don't make a profit every day, but someday if you're not working together, you're never going to make a profit. And that's exactly what this is about. We want to keep people in business, profitable, so that they can hire people and keep their employees.
Yeah, and speaking of that, you know, a lot of businesses and Gigi, I know you could probably speak to this, have been able to shift gears to sort of accommodate and assist in areas that need assistance due to the pandemic. Have you been advising, Marilyn as well, have you been advising any of these companies how they may be able to kind of change their business model to do just that?
Actually, I wanted to say that I think we're learning from them, because I think a lot of our companies rapidly changed course. We just surveyed our members just to get a sense if they knew what the governor's phased-in plan was, and then themselves, were they working or were they open or not open? And what we found out is it basically fell into three groups: closed, or the other 2/3 were open. So it was 1/3, 2/3. But that 2/3 was evenly divided between the ones that were 100% teleworking. And the other one, the final third, is staggered schedules and staggered spaces. So there's already been innovation. They immediately changed how they were interacting with their customers, how they were taking care of their staffs. I think what's really impressive is that the companies that we work with, I'm sure Marilyn's seen this too, is that paramount was how do they protect their employees and their customers right from the beginning. And this is like, you know, invention is the, you know, mother of necessity thing. I mean, mother of necessity produces great innovation. Right out of the gate, people were making changes. You know, it was kind of a, what is going on here? You know, and then it rapidly changed. So some have already dealt with are beginning to deal with their workspace. And others not. I think what's really hard are people, the companies that are, a lot of our government contractors are working because a lot of them are health IT companies. They're doing IT. A lot of them are able to do that remotely. Not 100%, but the majority. And that's a lot of our companies here. But for companies that have to deal with customers, you know, they went to curbside rather, pickup and all of that for food. I mean, certain things did happen. And I'm hearing about great innovations that are kind of hovering, getting ready to happen for more organized ways to do that. But I think that right away they adapted. And I think it's not so much what we're telling them as what we're learning from them. And then we're trying, of course, to get them connected to all the great resources, information. But I really am concerned. I tend to look forward. And I know Marilyn is really this way. Like, where we were is interesting. It informs us, but the hockey puck is moving pretty quickly, right? And we got to skate to where it's headed. And you know, how do you do this reopening so that more companies that couldn't be open can get there? And you know, we got to follow science. I mean, it doesn't do us any good if everybody gets sick. And companies, no employer wants to be in that. They're the liabilities. And by the way, the unemployment insurance liability situation. Huge. We got to because those rules were dreamt up at a time where companies weren't being forced to close. I mean, Marilyn can speak to that to a fairly well, right?
Yeah, I want to get to that because that's important. Susan's point about pivoting. We're calling all of our members on the phone, and it's so interesting the conversations that I'm having. And some of them are launching new products. For instance, our copy centers are now providing posters for businesses on PPE. We have our embroiderer is now doing logoed masks. Our trophy guy is doing logoed masks. So people are pivoting and to try to take care of that revenue, the lost revenue. I think Gigi's point about unemployment, it's clearly a mess, not only the state system. We have people who have not received a dime of unemployment yet, and they call hundreds and hundreds of times a day, and so that has to be resolved. But the issue of how it's going to affect businesses with the history of unemployment. So once an employer has an unemployment claim, their rates skyrocket. And so we need to take care of that. And we've been working, as all the chambers have, Gigi's chamber's been taking the lead as well on getting that forgiveness or getting some type of exemption for this time period, because it's going to be critical as we move into the future. We can't have businesses open and then have their unemployment rates skyrocket.
It's my understanding, and this could be wrong just because it's my understanding, but it's my understanding that the rates will not change because of COVID. That the state was going to hold the businesses harmless on that. Now, if that's changed or if that's incorrect, someone is going to have to correct that. But
we haven't seen the final verdict on that. I mean, that's the intention. It hasn't come down yet. I didn't see that, Gigi, in terms of
I haven't either, and I would love to see how is that going to be. You know, how is that codified? You know,
Yeah.
How do we know that's the case so that we can take that information and let our employers know because they are very concerned about that. That's a double whammy.
And it's for good reason. I mean,
Yeah.
the rates literally skyrocket. And one of the things that we have learned from this whole episode, this crisis, is that not one size fits all. I mean, businesses and nonprofits for years realized that not one size fits all, but now it's for real, it's for certain. You know, certainly even in the state of Maryland, it's very different being in Allegheny County or Garrett County or good friends from there, but it's very different from what they're experiencing to what we're experiencing in Montgomery and Prince George's and our more dense areas.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, I understand how the governor would want to do things differently for different areas,
Mm-hmm.
but we need to have the flexibility, which we have at this moment, and we need to be working together so that to the point earlier, the science and the everything needs to come together so that we're aware of what we're doing to keep people safe.
So one of the comments that you made before, Council President Katz, and I think some of your colleagues appreciate the fact that in many ways, you also are first responders. You are frontline. So our companies that are here are counting on our county government to help set the way here, because what they experience is here. So when they dial 911, it's the county they're calling. They're not calling the state or the feds. They're calling the county. So at the county level, yes, we have different situation, and yes, we have more cases, and that's just they're counting them. That's a numerical fact. There is. There's the data. But the other side of it is we've got to also have better information, more clarity, the not one size fits all. Who can safely open, and what does that mean? How? So they can do it, because they're not experts in all the health issues. Nobody on this call is, and so we're looking to experts to tell us, and heaven knows they're our neighbors. I mean, NIH is here, you know, FDA is here, so we've got Hopkins is here. We've got all these brilliant minds. We really need guidance for how not to have it be one size fits all, so that our companies know what they need. They need guidelines. We need guidelines so we know what is and isn't. And everything, I don't think everything should be closed. And the truth is, everything isn't closed. It's really good about who can work remotely and who can invent new products out of their, library at home or whatever. I mean,
I said early on that when we said, well, essential businesses can be open. And I understand there's people, but when I had a small business, it was essential to me, regardless of what I was selling. I mean, so what's that definition mean?
Yeah, says who?
And we have
Right.
absolutely, and we have seen that curbside for restaurants and a few other businesses do work. So whether or not this isn't going to be a spigot that you turn back on. And not everybody's going to run back to be doing the business the way we used to for a lot of reasons, but maybe we can, and it's not going to be today. I don't want to give that impression, but maybe over time we can do things in steps so that we can actually get back to where we need to be and realize whether or not it's safe to do it that way. Because, I mean, the fact that the state and some other areas is going to be opening up, we're going to find out whether or not that's been a good idea for those areas or not. I mean, we'll see if there's a spike. I mean, even though they might not have had the problems that we've had up till now, when they go back to doing things that they weren't doing before, whether or not that's going to be a spike for them. Maybe not to the same degree we have, but it would certainly be for them.
I have a question that has come in to us. I've heard there may be audits in the future on the PPP money received by businesses. Can you speak to that? Is that the case?
Yeah. I'll go first with this, Gigi. You can chime in. So yes, there may be audits with any aid that you get. So whether it's federal, county, or state, there could be audits. The thing about the PPP is that it's complicated. If you have W-2 employee, if you just have W-2 employees and your staff complement is the same or more than it was a year ago, and the pay is the same, then it should be pretty straightforward. But if it's not, it can get very complicated very fast. And so we've had a couple seminars on PPP forgiveness. I encourage all of our members, all businesses out there, if you have a PPP loan, please talk to your accountant about forgiveness, because it's not a straightforward check the box.
Yeah, I would just say, right, I agree. I mean, that's it. I think right from the beginning, you should make sure that, whoever supports your payroll, as well as your accountant, you need to make sure that those things are being accounted for as you go. And then position yourself, because you should always be ready to be audited at all times. And that should be something that at the close of every month, you should know. You should be basically doing a close that gives you like a little mini audit. And but you're going to need some extra pieces there, but I think Marilyn captured that.
And between Gigi and I, we've got a ton of accountants out there. So
we
if
do.
You don't have one, we
certainly do. Well, yeah, we can help. We'll connect you to the right person, because it's about fit, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Get you connected to the right person, exactly.
And though hopefully the rules don't change during, because there are times that sometimes it's helpful if it makes it easier. But there are times that they say, well, we didn't exactly mean it that way. Well, you just affected a whole lot of lives here.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes you want to adjust to whatever the rules were. If we realize that, okay, 8 weeks isn't going to cut it, we're going to be at this for 6 months. So I think that there are some things that sometimes you need to revisit what you thought was a great idea in March. Might not be such a great idea in June. I think we might have a gap between, when those decisions were made and what the reality on the ground is. But
my point was, it's fine if they make it less stringent.
Yes.
Don't make it more stringent.
Yeah. I vote yes on that.
Yeah. But there is the governmental issue here. Yeah.
Okay, we have another question. An organization who has kept their staff employed and who is a reimbursable employer for workers' comp will be responsible for unemployment paid to individuals who were laid off by other organizations. How can we get assistance with those costs?
Say that one again. I got some noise in the background. I couldn't hear it all.
It's probably not.
An organization who has kept their staff employed and who is a reimbursable employer for workers' comp will be responsible for unemployment paid to individuals who were laid off by other organizations. How can we get assistance with those costs?
That one, I don't know the answer to that. That would certainly be the state of Maryland. I mean, Montgomery County doesn't do workers' comp. So
yeah, that seems like a state question to me as well.
Please, and if they have difficulty getting information from the state of Maryland, not that we have a magic wand either, but if they do, they could certainly copy us, and we can try our best to help out to facilitate answers. But that would be a state of Maryland answer.
Okay, and I've got another question. And this is from a woman who wrote in, a certified woman, small-owned business who's been in Montgomery County for more than 28 years. She has a group of unemployed youth that were approved with WIOA funding prior to COVID to continue their IT certification course. Their boot camp starts next week, and they need to be on the learning path. They desperately need this training, and they need to be employed. They want to know if they put social distancing in place and all other protocols, would it be okay for them to open? But I think we might have an answer for them.
Well, first off, it depends. First of all, I don't know that they're in Montgomery County. I mean, being in another place other than Montgomery County would certainly make a difference, because the governor has different rules in place for other areas. And then the next question is whether or not they could consider a Zoom meeting, a Zoom classroom, just like we're doing here. I mean, so, you know, when earlier on, we were talking about innovation, and we are. I mean, that's what I can tell you, Montgomery County never had Zoom meetings, to my knowledge, prior to a couple months ago. And now I pretty much am on more Zoom meetings than I'm in at my home. I shouldn't say that I'm home, but I certainly am at home on Zoom rather than any place else in my house.
Yeah.
And so we've had to change. The public has been very kind to us, understanding that we've had to change and the way we've been doing public hearings. And Susan, you've been running those public hearings for us. So it's just a different world. And I think they should look into any changes that are necessary. And if they need additional technology to do it, then they should, and if they're in Montgomery County, they should look into what programs are available that we could help with.
Yeah. To that question, Marilyn and Gigi, how have you been managing remotely? I mean, you're used to working face to face with a lot of these businesses, having meetings in person. It's got to be a big change.
It is. Marilyn, I'll let you go first on that, and I'll clean it up.
It is a big change. I should say this is the first time we've ever had a Zoom board meeting, and we don't even have conference call meetings. I think it's going to be hard to get my board to actually come back to a face-to-face meeting. I think they like the flexibility. So we're going to most likely adapt new technology. You know, our members, what's really interesting is we have Zoom events, and we get 30, 40, 50 people chime in, and it's been fun. We do Zoom and chat rooms, and it's been good. People are adapting.
Yeah. I would agree with that, and we're experimenting with platforms. So we use Zoom, Teams. We also use GoToWebinar. It very much depends on what we're delivering. The Chamber also has a foundation. In that foundation, we have a training program, the Veteran Institute for Procurement, which you're very familiar with. And that's, usually people fly in from all over the country to participate in a 3-day conference that's headquartered here because, you get everybody together, bring all these experts in that train them on federal contracting. Well, that whole thing, is moving platform. And so our view is that at first we thought, yikes, are we out of the events business? Are we out of the meetings business? And the answer is no. We have just moved the venue to a virtual venue. And so we're having an event right now, and we're going to just keep going that way. What we're finding is it does change the dynamics, but we are really helping to bring people along by scheduling these. We talk to people ahead of time. Here's how you get on Zoom. Here's how you do Teams. Here's how you do, webinars, whether it's GoToWebinar or WebEx or whatever it is, and we're still looking at, and we see new things coming out all the time. So we're now on the hunt for there's all kind of other stuff out there. So again, going back to what we talked about earlier is that this has produced a lot of innovation. And so, as people get used to doing it, you just hop onto a call, a Teams call or a Zoom call or whatever it is. We had been doing webinars like a lot of organizations. So doing a webinar with a PowerPoint and all a speaker and all that, we had been doing that. And we had done some training that way, but our brands, Marilyn's brand and my brand and all our colleagues, it's all about the experience. So we've just changed the experience.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I agree.
Catch up on this stuff anyway, right? So.
And I agree, but there again, you're changing, that you've affected the hospitality industry because people are not coming in. You've affected the airline industry because people are not. It literally is, if you pull on one side of that blanket, it's causing other concerns.
Well, you know what? This virus caused all that.
Oh,
I'll tell you what. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And, it pained me to have to postpone our public safety awards, which was Friday, March 13th. Right. As you may recall, because you were going to be on stage speaking. And Marilyn, I think you were going to be there because you always participate with us. And, 1,300 people at the conference center. So we're going to have to find other ways to honor people because it's going to, might be a minute or two before, it might be a minute, as the expression goes, before we can bring big groups together again. And when we do bring bigger groups together, it's got to be a different experience. I don't even know what all the rules are going to be. I can use a vaccine right about now. Do you think you could we could send a vaccine. If government could get that done, that'd be like,
Yeah.
that's really what we need.
Well,
Great.
Well,
Well, we're about running out of, oh, go ahead, Marilyn. We're
was
about
gonna
running
say,
out of time, but go right ahead.
yeah, Sidney started to mention it. It's consumer confidence. So just because the government says you can open, how long is it going to be before 100 people want to attend a dinner? So it's the government, but also consumers have to be comfortable.
Great discussion, ladies and Council President Katz. This has been very enlightening. More to come, I'm sure. Thank you for being on our program today. We really appreciate it. Mr. Katz, will you take us out, please?
I will, and I just want to thank all the ladies for being with us today and all the people listening. These are always, and believe me, I get as much out of this as anyone else. It's fun seeing friends, but it's also most enjoyable getting the information, and hopefully others are getting information as well. We are here to serve, and we appreciate everything that everyone is doing from for our for-profits and our nonprofits to keep Montgomery County the great place that it is. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.